Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I wanted to get right into this video. On this channel, you'll get things about the Lord, about salvation, about holiness, but you'll also get practical topics. As I said in the last video that I just did, a lot of times people spend so much of their effort into religion that they don't deal with the reality of things that they struggle with and what people deal with. Their blanket statements, their quotes, their all sorts of things that we know to say and do, but very rarely are people dealing with the reality of life. They're not talking about that. Here, I do that. The Lord has impressed upon me to talk about these things. So, I did a video we're talking about women who are jealous of daughters, and in this video I'm going to talk about men who are jealous of sons. Now, if you end up becoming a single parent for whatever reason, whether you're a widow, whether you got divorced, your spouse died, or it just dissolved, or you were never married to begin with, and you have a child, you have to be very careful who you allow around your son. You have a son. Because sometimes when you deal with certain men, those men are not mature. They are grown. They have a grown man body. But mentally, emotionally, and most importantly, spiritually, they are stunted. Sometimes these men have gone through trauma in their lives. They had abusive mothers, abusive fathers, a hard life. They were neglected. Sometimes they had a good mom, but she might have been manipulating. Maybe she provided everything. I'll do another video about that, about the perfect, quote unquote, perfect narcissist. This person, they're doing everything right to the surface. It can be confusing. They're doing so many good things, and they're great providers, the great house and the car and everything and anything you ever need. But in fact, they're still narcissists. So when they do these underhanded things, you're confused because you're like, but they're doing all this stuff for me. But sometimes they were manipulated in some ways, but most of the times these men did not grow up in a stable household. And now, I have to say, not all individuals who grew up in a single home or unstable environment turn out to be this way. There are lots of men who had hard times, and maybe they were wayward for a while, but they were able to get themselves together, and they have done well. They are just like, I'm not going to follow this path, and they're better individuals, better than whatever they experienced as a child, okay? But then there are others who are not. And when you're living in a society where mass shooters can be given an excuse for why they did it, whether it's their mental health or whether they had a bad childhood, you must understand why it's so easy for people to never really take responsibility for their action, because there's always an excuse. So these men may live their lives kind of ignoring the root causes of things and building up a different facade and a different appearance, okay? They start going to the gym, they work out, they do this. Maybe they were bullied, and now they're taking martial arts classes, and they go to school and they get what they need, so they have the money and the car, so no one can tease them anymore, and they're in control and they're the boss, and now they're telling people what to do instead of being told what to do all the time. And they do all these different things, and they study books on how to please a woman, so that sometimes if they don't have anything else going for them, at least I have a body and I know how to have, he knows how to please a woman, and that's pretty much a free ticket to anything. There could be so many things. And then also they will put on the garb of religion, and they're going to church and they're doing all these things, but they're toxic. So what happens is he may show interest in you, but this man is jealous of your son. This man, because of his bad experiences with his mother, with women in his life, or what he has heard, his cultural settings and his life experiences, he will see your son as competition. Whether it's a little boy or he's an adult, he's going to see your son as this other man that he needs to show who's boss or get rid of. We're living in extremely dangerous times. It is not unusual to hear of men who have killed women and their child and their children, killed women and their sons, sometimes even children that they've given birth to. That children who are theirs, their own. Because a man who lacks discipline and discretion and understanding, he goes down this spiral, and if he does not deal with it, if he does not deal with that stuff and he does not come to terms with it, he does not give those things to God, it's going to come out. And a lot of times with men, it's going to come out in a very aggressive and explosive way, where his anger is of such that he will hurt even the one he once protected or was supposed to protect. There are lots of women who are quick to say, move in with me, come in, because they want the family setting. You want the fantasy. You could bring that man into your home and you're trying to make him head of the household. You may feel good having him around because now you have someone to watch your children while you're going to the store, or while you're doing certain things, or extra income in the house, and you're trying to force something that it is not there. He doesn't know how to be the head of the house because he didn't have the head of the house in his home. Or maybe he did, but the head of the house was an aggressor and a bully, and that's what he knows. So you're looking at him as a man, but now he is a bully that's living in the house with your son. And sometimes these men, what they will do is they're going to go out of their way to provoke your son in a subtle way. Depending on the dynamics of your relationship, sometimes he'll do it in a passive-aggressive way where he is provoking your son. He may be hugging you and doing certain things, and you're just enjoying your hug, but he's looking at your son in the eye like, right? It could be other ways. If you're one of those women that you want that man so bad it doesn't matter what he does now, he is intimidating your son in front of you. He speaks down to him in front of you. He's acting like he's his father and talking to him in a way, not because he's really trying to guide him, but he's just exerting his power. He doesn't care about him at all. But because he can tell him and he can deny things and take things from him, and he's still stronger than him, and you just sit by and allow it, your son does not feel protected, he'll do these things. Because the child in him that was bullied, and the child that did not have a good relationship, looks at him, he does not see him as a child or an individual, but someone to destroy, because he himself was destroyed in many ways. So let's say you have a loving relationship with your son, and you're kind and you hug your son, and you care about him and you're supportive of him and you're there for him. To this man, he is going to be jealous because he feels like you're giving your attention to another man. If your son is a minor, he's going to make you feel as if you're just you're spoiling him, and he's too soft, and he's too this, and he's too that, because he's used to being, getting slapped around and punched by his father or his uncles or whatever, or maybe the men his mother used to bring around him. They mistreated him. So because he's used to men representing the men in his life, violated him in some way, disrespected him, he was not protected. When he sees a mother who loves her son, who considers her son, who's supportive, he sees it as unusual and weird. So he wants to change that. So he'll make you feel as if you are like something is perverse about the relationship. He wants you to stop hugging him. It gets to the point that you don't even feel comfortable. Neither you or your son will feel comfortable being around each other because and interacting. Maybe he would sit next to you on the couch or lay next to you. Now he's not doing it because you've got this man in your life now who makes you feel as if you acting like you're on a date with him. Oh, is he your boyfriend? These little jokes that they may come in with, don't let them get away with it because they mean that. And in reality, you really shouldn't have a man in your home, shouldn't be living with you, especially if you're a Christian. I know there are times you can make poor decisions, but just don't. He's coming up Netflixing and chilling in your house, being mad, eating up all the popcorn, drinking up all the juice, doing all these different things, leaving his shirt over, doing all these things. So your system or what you've done in your house with your family is disrupted with your son or sons because of him. And he is all about trying to make something out of what's not there. As I said, you're hugging your son, you're loving your son lays next to you, let's say you playing your son's hair, little things that moms may do or hug their son. He's looking at it as it's a problem. Oh, y'all must be sleeping together. Y'all must be doing this. No, when they say that, get rid of them. Because a lot of times he will think that way because his relationship with women were perverted. If he's thinking, oh, you must be sleeping with your son, the question is, did you sleep with your mom or something? Did one of your aunties do something to you? Because sometimes that happens. Sometimes not only an aunt, but an uncle. These individuals, a male cousins may have done something. So his life experiences was with perversion and letdown and abuse. And what he does now, he comes in to regulate. He sees your son as a target to break him down, to separate, to intimidate, to bully him, to antagonize him, to show him, I got your mother. And if you're not discerning, you're going to lose that relationship with your son. And when it's all said and done, and maybe you marry this guy and he's just ruining your life, your son will distance himself because he'll see that you've chosen someone over him and it will hurt him tremendously, but he'll move on. Or you'll find cases where now you have someone in your life who's mistreating you, your son is trying to defend you, and he ends up either hurting or killing this man, or this man hurts and kills him. Because now we're talking about sons here. He's going to grow up in his own strength and he's going to have that filial love for you. He's going to have, your son is going to have a desire to protect you, but sometimes because he's still a minor or he is not as strong as this man, or is, whatever the scenario, he ends up doing something that's devastating. So, or vice versa. So there is so much more to consider when you're a woman. And you have to be able to recognize that. And a lot of times you'll see it. It's going to come out no matter how much that man may try to hide it. It's going to come out. There's going to be something that he's going to say as a joke towards you or do. Or your son may come to you and tell you something. Pay attention to it. Again, sometimes children can be jealous and they can be making things up. But you should never just assume they're making things up. You need to believe them first. Especially when you've had a good relationship with your child. If your child is saying, Mom, there's something not right, listen to them. Pay attention. Don't be so on cloud nine. Oh, it's so wonderful that you're missing the clues that's right before you. You spend enough time with them, you're going to see. A lot of times he's going to want to try to do things that does not include your son. He'll make you feel bad for texting your son, taking your son's calls, going to support him. He'll put you in a position to make you feel like you need to choose between them. And as I said, the love between a mother and a child is different from the love between a man or a woman. And anytime you have a man who is trying to make you think and feel as if you're cheating and you're doing something wrong with your son, he is broken. He has things that he needs to deal with. And sometimes men don't think of that. They're just going and not realizing you've got this poisoned seed, this bitter root in the midst of you, that you want to beat up someone's son and you want to toughen him up. That's not your job. He's not your child. He's not your son. So number one, a lot of times some men, they want to toughen up your boy and they want to do this. They want to punch and hit him, but they don't have love for them because he did not come from him. He did not come from his loins. He did not come from his body. He wants to abuse. He wants to bully. He wants to break his spirit. He wants him to turn into a brute beast like he turned out to be because of how he was neglected and how he was mistreated. And it's not your job to have sympathy on this person to the point that you continue to allow them to have access to your sons. Because sometimes not only that, some of these men will violate your son sexually because they were. Sometimes they will violate them just physically, intimidating them, doing things like that. And you keep leaving them alone with them, and they taunt them and they tease them and they antagonize them and threaten them to keep quiet. And then you come home or whatever, you just huggy boo 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 with him and all these things, and he's just looking at you like he's looking at your son, and you don't realize it, like, yeah, I got it like that. I got your mother. And that is a very hard thing for a young boy to face. So open up your eyes and pay attention. If he always wants to exclude your son, if he's always talking about how soft he is, if he seems to want to regulate and antagonize him, if he makes you feel as if something is wrong with your relationship with him and makes you feel uncomfortable taking and receiving calls or hugging your son, pay attention to that. Those are red flags. There's nothing perverse in you loving your child. A mother and a father's relationship with their children, it is a lifetime connection, even as they become adults. And with the exception of where the children may behave poorly, every now and then you have that son that is disrespectful, and that man is trying to be kind, and that man who is interested in you, he is considerate and he is nice, but your son is rude and he's out of line. And in those cases, I say to men, when you meet that woman who she has children who are very rude and disrespectful, don't deal with her. Especially if you have children of your own, and if you've raised your children well, and her children are running around like a bunch of hyenas and disrespectful and rude, and her son he hates you and he's disrespecting you and all this, and that's my mom, and she just leave it alone, because you can't compete with that. Just don't do it. There's no reason to. Don't do that headache, because that's, especially when she has a male son, he's going to get stronger and he's younger than you. He may not be strong now, but he will be able to overpower you eventually. And boys just have a different way of thinking. Doesn't matter what you do. If they decide that they don't like you, they're going to keep this vendetta in their heart. And they will never, ever. And then once they get older and they begin to master just certain ways of being, you're not going to get through to them. So just don't do it in cases where the child, whether they're adult or minor, they just don't like you, and it's just you're trying to teach them manners and the basics and how not to eat with their knee on the table and take your foot out the potato salad, that type of thing. Just leave them alone. Don't do it. Okay? But this video is specifically more so for men who are toxic, men you've gone through some things. You have to deal with it. Working out, looking good, being strong, getting educated, driving nice cars will not be able to, it won't heal the wounds within. And this is where you have to go to God and pray and ask for healing and get counseling and deal with that seed of hurt. Because this is how you see people will go up the social ladder and they do well in life and they become bosses, but then they're these horrible bosses. Like, they can't take any criticism, they can't take any advice because they're broken. They're still that little kid inside that their family used to criticize them and talk down to them, so that if they hear any sort of constructive criticism or someone not agreeing with them, they revert back to that wound of being young. But now that they're in a position of power and authority, they can exert, they can get revenge, they can give you the worst work schedule or fire you or sabotage you or terrorize a woman's son. So that healing and that reality check is extremely important. It has to be done. Otherwise, you will not have healthy relationships. You will not be able to really see the goodness in a relationship because you're too busy coveting and wanting the position of the son as well, and thinking something is wrong with it because of the perversions and the things that you face, or the abusive environment you grew up in. So when you see a loving environment, it's weird, and what you want to do, you want to change it to make it into what you're used to being in. Because this boy must suffer like you did. He should get punched like you did. He should be talked down to like you did. No. You're trying to spread toxicity. And no, little boy shouldn't be too soft or whatever, but you're not her husband. And even if you do become that, you have to first deal with yourself so that you can really see him as her son, seed, a legacy, an individual that you will respect as a person and approach accordingly. So when you are giving any type of counseling, when you're giving any sort of advice or directive or correction, it's not going to come from a place of hostility and hate, because there's a difference. So with that said, I'm going to go get the healing that you need, because there are some men out there who really look for single women because they think that, single women are more desperate. They think that you really want a man. You really do. And there are lots of single women out there who really want a man. They want someone to sit at the table. They want to have the whole family setting. But a lot of times these men have issues that they have not dealt with. They're just covered it up. And now they're playing this role. And they're being what they think you want them to be to get access to you. But then in the meantime, they have issues with your son because he's younger, he's new, he's being loved, he's prospering, he's doing different things that he never got. He wasn't raised right. So his thinking is dark, destructive. It is not only is it destructive, it is also very perverse, because maybe he's had perverse relationships. Not that he wanted to, but it was forced upon him. And that seed of molestation and all that stuff is still in him. So let God guide you in who to choose. Discern and pay attention to what is before you when you see it. Don't ignore it because he's cute, he's good looking, and you're paying attention to his great qualities and thinking that's his character. Qualities, the nice thing a person does, the things that they're good at, how they make you laugh and smile, and they can talk about different things. Those are qualities. That's not his character. Hope this makes sense. Comment below, let me know what you think.